Beautiful Anonymous is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. Like Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Want to buy your way? Of course you do. That's why CarMax offers an experience designed just for you. Want to start online, then visit the lot, then go back online? Sure. Want to talk to a real person or chat online? Either works. Want to take your time and compare all the makes and models? No problem. Then make up some time by filling out the paperwork at home and schedule express pickup or home delivery? Done. When it comes to how you buy, CarMax puts you in the driver's seat. Want to drive? CarMax. Delivery restrictions apply. See CarMax.com for details.
Hello to everybody who's fascinated by Lucha Libre. Seriously, BeautifulAnonymous.com. So worth it this week. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, 1 phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi, everybody. Chris Gethard here. Welcome to Beautiful Anonymous. If you are not a fan of the intro, I'll encourage you. We're doing some live shows, so look up the info on those. Otherwise, you're going to want to skip about 8-9 minutes ahead. That'll put you right towards the beginning of the phone call. Thanks. Hi, everybody. It's Chris Gethard, and I have to say thank you for listening, first of all. Welcome to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous, where we try to solve the loneliness epidemic one human being at a time via the magic of telephone calls. For anybody who's joining us for the first time, welcome. Thanks for taking a chance on the show. We've been doing these phone calls since 2016. This means we are about to enter year 10 of Beautiful Anonymous, which is astounding, and I can't thank you all enough for supporting this unpredicted, growing library of human conversation. We're doing some live shows. We don't do many of them anymore. This is, at the end of the day, to celebrate 10 years on the road. Wanted to get out there, get out to some cities that have always supported myself and the show. So Andrea and I will be going to Chicago and Detroit and Pittsburgh. 3 cities that we really love, that we have had great live tapings in before. The Chicago show is at the Hideout, one of my favorite venues. The Detroit show, it's actually in Hamtramck. It'll be at the Sanctuary, which I have not played before. I will, the day after, be getting breakfast at the Yemen Cafe, which is the best breakfast I've ever had. I've been there twice now. It's going to be a third time. I would say meet me there, but we have a road trip to Pittsburgh ahead of us. So let me order first, everybody. We'll be in Pittsburgh on February 1st. Chicago, January 30th. Detroit, January 31st. Pittsburgh on February 1st at Bottle Rocket Social Hall, which, for my money, that might be the best comedy venue in the United States of America. We've done live tapings there. I've done stand-up there. The very first show they launched with was a live taping of Beautiful Anonymous, which really was deeply meaningful to me. You can get tickets to all those shows at chrisgeth.com, which will, of course, redirect you to punchup.live/Chris Gethard. So don't be shocked when that happens. But come on out, everybody. And if you're in Chicago or Detroit and you've got an interesting place for Andrea and I to stay, let us know. We're not really looking to sleep on your couch, But if you happen to run an Airbnb or some sort of place where you have artists crash, we are all ears trying to keep costs low because that's the state of the world these days. So really hoping that some of you will come out. I don't get the sense that ticket sales are crushing it for any of these shows. So if you're planning on coming out, why not go ahead and buy your ticket sooner rather than later so that everybody can relax. That's my kind request of you. Okay, this week's episode, I'm really interested, to be honest. Not everyone's going to agree. This will be, in some ways, I think one of the more divisive ones that we've had in a while, because this caller is talking about self-determination and self-definition in so many ways. This caller is talking about, and there's real validity to this, growing up as part of a few different cultures that actively try to define you, either through dogma or through other people's opinions of your culture constantly being discussed and analyzed and putting pressure on you to act certain ways, fulfill certain roles. And the caller is at a stage in life of saying, I want to determine my own life. I want to self-actualize. I want to make the decisions that determine who I am. But the caller's also deep enough into life that there is a lot on the line in doing so. There are other people. As we talk about, there's a whole web that has to be unweaved in the course of this happening. You'll see what I mean. I'm being intentionally vague to tease you with it, but point being, it's an episode where some people, I think, are going to take a deep breath and go, I 100% know exactly how this feels, and I understand the tension surrounding it, and I understand navigating it. There's going to be other people who go, some of this sounds like just kind of wanting to have it your way and justifying it. I'm fascinated to see what you think. I know that we always discuss episodes over in the Facebook group. I think everyone who's in that Facebook group would agree. It is generally a place where even when there's disagreements, they're handled in a way that's civil, that's responsible, respectful, that needs to continue, obviously. Doesn't mean we can't disagree and talk about opinions, but we're not going to get histrionic about it in that awful internet-y way. That being said, I'm very interested to see the reaction to this one. Also, I have to say this. Coming up at the end of the year, this is our last episode before the Christmas holiday. Next week will be our annual tradition, our New Year's resolution show. So this is really, I think, the last time I'll be introing his show. And I just have to say, it's been a great year of Beautiful Anonymous. I've been so psyched. Ever since we went independent, it really is just, it's me and Andrea making the show, no network supporting us, surviving based on the goodwill of people out there. Anyone who's ever signed up at beautifulanonymous.com, I think you can take real faith in knowing like your money is supporting the actual creation of this show. Long term, I think that project is the thing that will determine if it lasts beyond the length of the ad sales contract that we're on now. And I just have to say thanks to everybody who's supporting it. We're also in an interesting world right now where audio-only podcasts are not thriving, where the podcasts that are topping the charts tend to be backed by big corporate money now. Many of them are hosted by A-list celebrities. I was like a C-lister at best when I stumbled into one good idea, and now here we are 10 years later, but I plan on fighting tooth and nail for this thing. So I've alluded to this a little bit, but just to let you all know, we are going to make a video version of Beautiful Anonymous in the new year. It'll be something you can watch on YouTube. Our episodes are on YouTube now, but it's just the audio with the image of the show, and no one really listens to it on YouTube, but I've been told time and time again by the people who sell ads on our show, YouTube, it's Apple Podcasts and then YouTube. Those are the biggest podcasting platforms there are. So if Andrea and I don't try to make a video version of the show to try to do better on YouTube, I don't think we are fighting hard enough for the long-term survival of this show. So we got to do it. There's people who have expressed to me that this show is intimate, that the audio nature of it feels like you're a fly on a wall for secret conversations. I'm just telling you now, we've had so many conversations about how to figure out a video version of this show that retains that doesn't betray that. Will it have an effect on the show? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that we are well aware of the intimacy that makes this show special. But at the end of the day, our first year we were getting 300,000 listens an episode, 500,000 listens some episodes. If it had anything to do with sex in the title, it would be 500,000 people, 500,000 people are listening to it. Now it's like, 30,000, 25,000 some episodes. And that is respectable and enjoyable and beautiful. But it's also headed in a direction where if we don't get it to stabilize and ideally start clawing back in the other direction, it does mean that someday the show will end. And 10 years in, it's amazing it's survived this long. So I don't want to get sad in any way at the end of the year. We have survived and thrived. And in an era where shows are being increasingly backed by conglomerates with think tanks and PR departments, we chose to go independent and make it a 2-person operation. I'm proud of that. But we're also going to be making some moves to see if we can't get these numbers stabilizing and growing. And some of that involves some shifts and trying to follow the strange, unpredictable trends of this algorithm-driven world. So keep your eyes peeled for that in the future. Anyway, sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. Hope everybody has had a great holiday season already. Hope that it continues to be a great holiday season. I know the holidays can be real emotionally tumultuous for a lot of people. Please weather that storm, get through. As far as seasonal affective stuff, this is just about the worst stretch of time for it. In the meantime, we've got a philosophical conversation. We've got a challenging conversation. We've got a conversation you're probably going to have some strong opinions on. Enjoy it.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, is this Chris?
Yeah, this is Chris.
Chris. It's going pretty good. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm my whole family was struck by a stomach virus that my son brought home. And it's been the plague of our town's first grade families. Many a family have been hit by this thing. And it was bad. It was rough. But now we're on the other side of it.
Yeah, glad to hear you're on the other side of it. We are also kind of experiencing something like that. I have 2 kids, and my oldest is kind of at the end of it too. So it's been interesting. It's not a good way to start winter break, but whatever, we're managing.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I felt bad for the little guy. He threw up a couple times, and then I got it, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." And it was not fun. Yeah. And then Hallie got it, and I don't know if this was like just how it affected her or an act of willpower, but she just slept for almost 24 hours straight. I've kind of never seen anything like it.
That's awesome.
I was honestly,
and then,
I was just about to call an ambulance, and then I saw her roll over, and I was like, okay, she's alive. I don't need to call the authorities.
She's still good. Yeah. So was she way better when she woke up then?
Yeah, she was. And she said some of it was that she just kept kind of half waking up, and she's like, if I wake up, I'm going to throw up. I guess I'll just go back to sleep. And it kept working.
Nice. Wow. That's got to be like some type of superpower to just be able to like shut down and just let your immune system go at it,
Yeah. I mean, I was jealous. I wish that I had
Yeah.
summoned that ability, but no luck. Anyway, that's how I'm doing. Now,
Yeah, well,
what's up
I'm
with
glad
you?
to hear you're like. I just hanging with the kids. So, so we started our Christmas or winter break. I don't want to call it Christmas anymore. But we live in the Midwest, and my kids were super excited because we had a bunch of snow. But then, of course, as soon as they're out of school, all the snow melted. So we're not having a very wintry winter break, which is fine. I personally I moved to the U.S. Back in 2001 from Mexico, and I'm still, it's been upwards of 20 years, and I'm still like every time we get our first snow, I'm like, oh no, here it comes again. Like, it's not, my brain just kind of like freaks out. And it seems like I always like question why society, like who decided that this was like a habitable place? Like, why didn't we just like, no, it's too cold, let's go south, But yeah, so it's just dealing with the winter blues kind of thing a little bit.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of chilling, and then I happened to open Blue Sky, which I kind of don't really use a lot, but I saw the message went out, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna call and see if I can get through. I've been a Beautiful Anonymous listener on and off since like 2016.
Nice. Thanks for listening.
So, yeah, of course. I love like getting to know people, listening to their stories, and I've grown so much just from like being able to hear how people see the world and what other perspectives are out there that maybe I would not had a chance to like consider and add to my perspective and the way I see the world.
I'm very glad. I'm very glad that is the takeaway, because that's how I feel about it too. I feel lucky.
Yeah, no, that's it's definitely like, it's been a tool for growth. And I really, like, there was one time in 2016 when I was driving, my job was like driving a big truck and delivering stuff around the state where I live. And I would always listen. And then there was one time where I saw that the message went out, and I tried to call in, and I was like so close, and I got so nervous I had to like pull over. But then I ended up like not getting through, and I was like, okay, that's fine, because I probably would have gotten in an accident or something.
Yeah.
But now I'm glad that all these years later I'm able to like get through, because there's also a lot of like life experiences that I would be excited to like share with the world, and kind of like, I mean, not the world, but share with the Beautiful Anonymous people who are wonderful. And yeah, it's been like a really, really, not, I would say tough, but like a really interesting and like exciting time in my life.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I alluded earlier, I said I moved here from Mexico when I was a kid. I was about like 12 years old. And so I, landed here in the Midwest. I was like probably one of like 10 or 11 non-white kids at the middle school where I started going to, and I spoke no English at all. And then I was, as one does when we're 12, 11 years old, we like are trying to figure out who we are and how we fit in society. So it was like a really wild time and a really scary change. It was very intimidating. But I've learned since, like that, like there's always like there's like an expectation of society of like where we're supposed to fit. And I've kind of, through the years and through life experiences, I've learned like, oh, like I don't have to do that. I don't have to follow that path. I can kind of carve my own, and in that I can figure out like who I really am and who I want to be. What I want to spend the years that I have, the time that I have doing, and so it's been really fun and rewarding, but also really tumultuous.
Now, that's intriguing. I feel like your explorations of the ways that you don't need to fit in could mean so many different things. So what form does that take on for you?
Yeah, so it started, I think, with like deconstructing Christianity. Growing up, my parents were Catholic, and they never really, like, we didn't really have like a spiritual or like a religious upbringing, but we just kind of went through the motions, as a lot of Catholic people do. But then when I graduated high school, I ended up moving to Hawaii, and I was living with an organization that like trains people and does like lectures about the Bible, and then they send these young people out to quote unquote third world countries to like spread the gospel, which sounds very like colonizing. But at the time I was just kind of like, fresh out of high school, didn't have anything to do, and didn't have any plans, couldn't go to college because I was undocumented. And my friend who was doing this classes or whatever asked me if I wanted to move over there with him. And I was like, yeah, I can get a job there and, live by the beach and do all that. So I moved out there, and then I found myself just surrounded by like super Christian people, just really like swimming in a sea of like religious like practices, and like these people really lived it out. And so I kind of like adopted Christianity again, started kind of diving into that. And then I came back to the Midwest because I couldn't find work. And I realized like how Christianity, especially like, here in the Midwest, and like the evangelical circles were like very white and very like, I guess, sectioned off. So like I wouldn't fit in the same category, or the churches that I was going to felt like I didn't belong in. And then I realized like, wait, this whole thing is like it's almost like a pyramid scheme. And started just kind of deconstructing Christianity from there. Realized it was like a tool, a vehicle for colonization, and started learning about like how it was tied to white supremacy, and just got really kind of grossed out by it, and started searching more into other types of spirituality and building community in different ways that were like outside of church and outside of religion. But then once I started breaking that down, I was like, wait a minute, what else am I like subscribing myself to? What else in my life is like this facade of like a good thing, and also like underneath it is like damaging or dangerous. And so I started breaking down the concept of like a nuclear family. I at the time I was dating someone, and then we ended up having our first kid, and then she was very worried that I would get deported. So we got married, and through that marriage, I was able to obtain like, immigration status here. And And then we ended up, fast forward a couple of years, we had one more kid. And then it was at that point where I started kind of like questioning the nuclear family thing, because I felt very isolated, especially like during the pandemic. I felt like we were kind of all in our own little box, and like it felt kind of like a trap. Like, okay, you worry about your kids and your wife, and everybody else can fend for themselves. But then what happens when like we run out of resources between, my wife and I and our kids? Like, where do we go from there? Because I'm already cutting off like, community neighbors. Like, I have neighbors that I've never spoken to, and I've lived in the same place for years. So I started kind of questioning that, the idea of living in tiny units of like 2 parents and 2 kids. And then I started also questioning like how we relate to people. So like, monogamy being like I guess, keeping people from relating to others in the way that they really want to. And I started bringing those things up to my wife, and she was like very, throughout our relationship, we've kind of grown together, kind of going, along with each other and deconstructing a lot of like paradigms and ideas. And I think this one, the monogamy idea and the nuclear family thing, was like a big one for her. We talked about it for a while, and I think over the course of like maybe a year or 2, we decided like we were going to be non-monogamous. And I think the excitement of that, and just like the kind of pushing forward through everything, is what caused us to now be in the position where we're at now, which is like in the process of getting a divorce and figuring out where to go from here. So yeah, that's kind of what deconstructing all these ideas and paradigms look like for me. There's also like a big stereotype, or I guess a big like society expectation of me being an immigrant, of like, you're supposed to like be the good immigrant, the one that works hard, the one that doesn't cause any harm, is a productive member of society, all of these things. And like I think in recent years I've been kind of like, man, that's bullshit. Like I can be whoever I want. Whatever society decides that productive looks like, I don't have to ascribe to that. And I'm just going to do, whatever feels right, whatever I feel like adds value to my experience and my kids' experience. And like, yeah, so I guess, just kind of live by, just kind of winging it.
That's a massive amount of change.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. I was saying I kind of feel like I'm all over the place. So if you have like any questions that will help me, like,
I have so many questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay. I mean, where to begin? One thing that jumps to mind right away is, it's funny because, especially also growing up Catholic, you kind of learn there's stereotypes about different types of Catholics, different regions of the world, and how they interact with Catholicism. And no stereotype is totally true, but the cliche view of Mexican Catholics is that they're some of the most devout and dedicated Catholics, especially like a special relationship with the Virgin Mary and an intense form of Catholicism. So to go from being very religious focused with your family when you immigrated to say, to saying, I'm losing belief in religion. I'm associating it with white supremacy as far as how it spreads and how it's used, almost weaponized in spreading, which is all stuff, by the way, that I agree with. I have to imagine, though, that your family, like your parents, must have, as they watched you reject religion, and I don't know if they know about your relationship with monogamy right now. I wonder how does that religious upbringing? They must be aghast. Is the short version of my rambly reaction.
Yeah. So I think with the religion part of it, like I think what happened in my like aversion to it is that I kind of put two and two together with like, you know, we and I guess the indigenous people of Mexico and the Americas were such cool people that lived just like, you know, they had like this great civilizations and like there was no they are portrayed in like all this cultures and history itself as like being like savages and being like very violent, having like all these human sacrifices. But in reality, like they were mostly nonviolent, and they, you know, there's still, you know, some languages that are being preserved in Mexico, and like there's no like word for like I own this, or you know, like private property and like ownership of things that doesn't really exist in some languages, some indigenous languages. And so I think like that's just like an example of how beautiful it was back then. I mean, I'm sure, you know, like everything, every society, they all had like some fucked up stuff, but I think like for the most part, like they were doing pretty well. And then here come the Westerners and take over and like, you know, try to basically ethnic cleansing and like try to erase culture and society. And a big tool for that was religion. It was like, you know, the reason that the Virgin of Guadalupe is like such a big deal, it's because they painted her as like an indigenous person who appeared and said like she was the mother of Jesus. And then all of a sudden you have all these indigenous people like, oh yeah, like she's one of us. So like we can, you know, we can worship her and like we're in. So I think that's the aversion there. And that's why like going from, you know, such a religious based like culture, I kind of now I'm on the other side of it where it's like, no, like that's actually very, very harmful. And as far as with my parents, it's like, I think especially with my mom, my dad, just like the stereotypical Mexican guy, he tends to not say anything and just kind of like, you know, unless he's had a few beers, then he'll kind of like make a comment and then go away before anybody can answer. But with my mom, it's been like a process of her kind of like giving up like little things, little ideas of like what she would want me to be or what she would want our relationship to be like, and then finding herself just having to like accept me and my ideas and being just basically like, yeah, I'll you know, if you're not celebrating Christmas anymore, and that for her was like a huge thing. And I think she came around when she understood that like, if I want to see my grandkids, like I have to kind of do it on their parents' terms, you know. So like she it's just been like little by little just kind of like accepting my quote unquote crazy ideas, and I think there's also like a lot of guilt. I think there is, with my parents, there's like a lot of guilt of like kind of uprooting and taking my brother and I to a whole new country that we didn't, you know anything about, and like just kind of like yeah, just putting the thing, not being able to build such as close of a relationship as they would have if had we stayed in Mexico. So like they feel like they almost like a sacrifice type situation where it's like, okay, like I brought you here, and then you ended up getting all these wild ideas of like religion and like how society operates, and like my dad always says that I blame everything on capitalism, and I'm like, yep, you're right.
How open have you been with them about your relationship with monogamy? We're going to pause there on what I think was a good spur of the moment question. Hey, remember how you told me your parents are really religious? How are they feeling about these very non-traditionally religious life shifts? We're going to hear about that and a whole lot more when we get back. If you're like me, you would agree that gift giving for your parents, for the older generation, at a certain age, you go, what else can I give them? And sometimes people fall into traps, right? Flowers another year, another sweater where you're like, maybe they'll like it, maybe they don't. Have you thought about memories? Have you thought about the value of memories as a gift? Because I'm telling you, a skylight frame makes it so easy to celebrate memories in a way that's going to be more meaningful than so many other gifts out there. You can preload a skylight frame with tons of your favorite photos so that when the recipient opens it up, it's already full of special moments. It's personal, it's meaningful, it's easy to use, so easy to use that even the least tech-savvy person in your family will love it. I know because I set mine up very easily, and I will mess up anything involving tech. Skylight frame is a digital picture frame. You can send photos to it. They appear in seconds, and it is a fantastic gift for loved ones, especially if you're spread out in different parts of the country. Oh man, it really, really works. The Skylight Frame's quick 1-minute setup is easy for all ages or tech skill levels to use. You don't need an app. You don't need a subscription. If you're not happy with your Skylight Frame, you can return it within 4 months for a full refund, no questions asked. Plus, if your device experiences a covered issue within the first 3 years, Skylight will replace it free of charge. The Today Show, Wall Street Journal, HuffPost, and Tom's Guide all recommend the Skylight Frame. Find out why. It's an awesome product. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $20 off their 10-inch frames by going to myskylight.com/beautiful. Go to myskylight.com/beautiful. You'll get $20 off your 10-inch frame. That's myskylight.com/beautiful.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here, wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Thanks to our advertisers. Now let's get back to the phone call. How open have you been with them about your relationship with monogamy?
Yeah, so that was a big one. I just like try to keep it together. I try to keep it to myself for the longest time, and it took about like maybe a year and a half into it where my ex-partner and I we decided like we were not going to relate to each other in like a romantic way, because she was like seeing someone that I didn't trust and didn't want to relate to, and she just was kind of like pushing through, just being like, I don't really care how you feel, I'm gonna pursue this relationship, and so I decided like, okay, I don't want to like be your romantic partner anymore, but we have these kids and we have this life together, so we can just be roommates. We can live together and co-parent and just like continue to do everything the same way that we are doing it now. but we just won't be like romantic partners. And she was like, yeah, that's awesome. Like that, that works out perfect. Like it's the ideal situation. But then very soon after that, I realized like she just like, I felt like she wasn't taking any like emotional, responsibility, or like didn't have any room for my emotions, and like to be like just even a friend, like just to be there for me in what I was experiencing, which was like just the adjustment of like non-monogamy, and like feeling like dealing with like jealousy and like feeling abandoned. um and she just was kind of like, oh, I don't know, figure it out. um so that felt really bad. And that the idea of like living together and co-parenting only lasted for like a couple months. And I realized like, hey, I don't want to be your friend. Like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know, like, who you've become. Um, and I want to like get a divorce and just go our own separate ways. And I think at that point I had to tell my parents, because, there were changes coming down the line, and like, um, it seemed like they were kind of like, um, you can tell, you can notice when things are when there's like stress or friction in a relationship. So I just like had a conversation with my mom, and she she didn't understand what I was saying. She was like, so does that mean that like you guys are you guys not going to be together? And at the time I was like, well, maybe. But then she's like, wait, but how, if your partner already has another person? Like, why are you like, she, in her mind, I should have been like super mad, and like, it was like a betrayal, is how she perceived it. And I was like, no, like we had an agreement, this happened, and like now we just like found ourselves in a situation where we don't agree. Like we can't like connect emotionally anymore. um and she just like, basically, like, her go-to line is like, I don't understand it, but I respect it, and I support you in everything that you want to do. Which is like, for me, like the ideal thing, the ideal response that that I would expect from her. um and I can tell it's like painful for her to like see kind of like, the ideal, like a house and a dog and two kids and all these things, like to see that fading away, and for me to be like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I don't, this isn't something that I'm like necessarily like sad or upset about. Um, but yeah, she's been like really supportive. She's been, I still think like she's, deep down, she's like hurting. I think grieving the idea of like, um, big old parties and get together, and like bunch of grandkids and everybody getting along. Um, but I think she also has come to the understanding that like the way in which we relate now, like the lifestyle that I lead now, the relationship with my parents and the kids, like, it's still pretty good. It's not what she saw, the expectations that she had, I think, but it's still really good. And we're all healthy. We all get together sometimes and still hang out and do all that. So yeah, I guess I don't I like, there's been times when we go to Mexico and visit her sisters, and like, the culture over there is like there's no boundaries. So she will share everything that she knows with her sisters about my life. And I think they're very confused as well. And they kind of see me as like, wow, this guy, like, he doesn't really know what he's doing. And, but, like, I guess the benefit of like the gossipy culture between my tias is that they won't say anything to me. They'll just say it among themselves.
Now,
does that make sense?
It does. And that covers family, which it sounds like so much to navigate. Now, you've also got something else going on here, which was, I think, any marriage that, people, I think anytime people bend the boundaries of monogamy, it's going to be, a topic of gossip amongst family, as you mentioned. And I think that's true everywhere. Now, you also mentioned that part of your marriage, at least, was fear about your immigration status. And I have to imagine there might be other gossip in your life of people wondering if that's tangled up in the choice regarding monogamy down the line. Like, does it come up? Do people go, oh, what was that based purely on immigration status, especially in 2025 when everyone's looking for an excuse to demonize immigrants and undocumented people?
Yeah. It hasn't, I guess, because of I'm sorry, there's a tiny airplane going over. Okay. Yeah, I think because of the timing of things, like, when we got married, it was like back, probably about 10, 11 years ago it would have been. And so I think people who know me know that, like, that wasn't, that's not the case. It wasn't like, they know that the marriage and like the relationship is very legitimate. I do like worry, or not necessarily worry, but I do think that people, tend to invalidate any relationship or any like marriage when that is like a part of it. When like immigration status is like involved in it, it almost feels like people will, and even within the immigrant community that then it's like, you tell them like, oh, so-and-so got married, and they're like, oh, like, but are they actually married? Like, it's like, there's like an extra, like, let me make sure that this is a legitimate thing. And that's, it sucks that that's the situation. It's so wild to me to like think about existing in this place as an undocumented immigrant in 2025, because when I came here, I actually got to the U.S. like a week or a couple weeks before September 11. So it was a very confusing time, but I wasn't.
You picked a hell of a time to show up.
Yeah, I remember like we or English, the ESL teacher, English as second language. He took us out to the roof of the middle school that we were at, just so that we can all look around and see that, like, we couldn't see any smoke or anything like that. Of course we're in the Midwest, so there was nothing near us. But he just like really wanted us to understand, like, hey, we're safe here. Like, there's nothing going on here, because, the language barrier and the cultural like differences and barriers there, kind of was like creating a panic among like all these kids who spoke very little English. And, a lot of us had just gotten there. But like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I just got here. Like, does this just happen all the time here in this country? Like, is this how people get down? But yeah, I got to see like, one of the kids that rode the bus with me to school. She was a Middle Eastern person, and like, I got to like see bullying after that, and a lot of like hate and stuff. And at the time, I just like, didn't really recognize that, or didn't really like register it, because I was myself just trying to like figure out how to exist. But thinking back on it now, I'm like, wow, like that is really messed up. Like she got bullied, and she got like just, yeah, like she just, and like she was the only like visibly like Middle Eastern person at the school in this like little town. It's a small city. But yeah, she just got like, it was like, daily like bullying on the bus, and like we'd get to school, and people would like call her names and like mess with her with like her clothes that she was wearing and whatnot. And looking back on it now, I'm like, oh my God, that's really like, that's so wild and so like violent. And it was like kind of normalized by the teachers, like they just kind of be like, hey, don't do that. But that's it. Like there was no follow up, nothing like that. Yeah, so that was really crazy to experience. And, I guess for me, it wasn't that big of a deal because I was a Mexican immigrant. So I felt I fit into a different category. But yeah, I can't imagine, like, because now I feel like now in 2025, like that is kind of what everyone is experiencing. Every immigrant is experiencing that type of like treatment, and like, maybe not like on the daily everywhere you go, but there's definitely a sentiment of like, you're like not welcome here. You're the root of, all these problems. And like, there's definitely like an agenda to dehumanize people, who come from other places. And, yeah, it's really, really scary and really sad.
And your marriage, it sounds like, was a bit of a safety net in terms of this, on top of your actual feelings, on top of co-parenting, on top of all the partnership. Separating now, divorcing now, in a time when ICE raids are happening and it's really scary. It's never been easy. This country's never made it easy for immigrants. Certainly not
Right.
for undocumented people. And now, I mean, just the footage alone of, masked people on streets, it's just visually scarier than it's ever been, let alone the practice of what are happening. Does having been married as long as you were create some safety from that, or do the choices that you've made that are leading to the end of your marriage put you back at risk as someone who came here undocumented?
Yeah. No, I think just being married, like I like I said, we've been married for so long. And through that process, like I was able to obtain citizenship, which I guess like I say that with a grain of salt because that doesn't really mean shit anymore. You start to see like, people who are citizens being like persecuted and arrested and whatnot. But I think like, yeah, having built a life here, it feels a little bit more, I don't feel like I'm in the scope of ICE or the scope of this like administration, or this moment. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit outside of it, and I recognize that I have like a little bit of privilege in that I was able to kind of get my immigration status before things got really bad. And so what I think my scope kind of changed into like, okay, what can I do, knowing, kind of having like a good perspective or a good idea of what this people who are at the very, front lines, at the very like danger zone, what they're experiencing. Like, what can I do? What resources can I offer? What can I, how can I organize my community to protect them and to be a resource, to be like, a shield for those people. And so, yeah, I think also because like my wife, who I'm going through a divorce with, she's white, she's from here. And so like same thing, my kids are white passing and, wouldn't be, I guess like, yeah, I don't see them as like being a target of anything like that. So that gives me a little bit of like safety and a little bit of like room to kind of see what, like how I can organize, how can I gather resources and protect my neighbors who don't have that privilege and who are, at risk or are being, kidnapped and disappeared.
And how is it going explaining everything that's happening recently to your kids? And we're going to pause. We've got advertisers. They help the show exist. Let's hear from them, and then we'll finish the phone call. Cold mornings, holiday plans. This is when I need my wardrobe to just work. That's why I'm all about Quince. They make it easy to look sharp, to feel good, and to find gifts that last. From Mongolian cashmere sweaters to Italian wool coats, Quince pieces are crafted from premium materials and built to hold up without the luxury markup. Quince makes the essentials every guy needs. Mongolian cashmere sweaters for $50, Italian wool coats that look and feel designer, and denim and chinos that fit just right. Their outerwear lineup is no joke. Down jackets, wool top coats, leather styles that are built to last. Each piece is made from premium materials by trusted factories that meet rigorous standards for craftsmanship and ethical production. By cutting out middlemen and traditional markups, Quince delivers the same quality as luxury brands at a fraction of the price. It's everything you actually want to wear, built to hold up season after season. I own a whole bunch of stuff from Quince. You've heard over the years about my love of Quince sweaters. I recently bought not one, but 2 corduroy jackets from Quince, and they are working for me, man. I like how I feel in them. The price was right, and I get compliments. Okay? I'm wearing these jackets. People are like, yo, sick jacket. And in my head, I'm like, you would not imagine what a bargain this was. And it's warm in the cold. Quince, honestly, their corduroy jackets blowing me out of the water. I love them. Anyway, get your wardrobe sorted. Get your gift list handled with Quince. Don't wait. Go to quince.com/beautiful for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/beautiful. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/beautiful.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Thanks again to all of our advertisers. Now let's finish the last phone call of 2025. And how is it going explaining everything that's happening recently to your kids?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I guess like my oldest, she is in middle school now, and I think like I try not to project a lot of like my experience, like me experiencing huge changes at that age, because she's about the age that I was when we moved here. And so it's like, there's a huge, change coming down the line, like, moving, and so the dynamic of the family kind of shifting. I try to, just kind of give them space to like ask questions and try to like, let them know, be as communicative as I can, and let them know, what the plan is and like what I'm looking to do, what's going to happen in the near future. It's been tough. I think a lot of it though is like just me kind of, like I said, like projecting my feelings onto them, with like, big changes. And like I remember when I moved, when my parents decided like that we had to like leave Mexico because we were struggling like financially. They like sat my brother and I down and like asked us if we wanted to move, and they said like, we can go over there, but if neither of you want to leave, then we'll stay. And I was like, I don't want to go. And my brother, like, he wanted to get a pair of Jordans, so he was like, yeah, I'll go. So
just for
I
Jordans.
just felt very like, yeah, he was like, hey, this is my opportunity. So I was like, wait a minute, like, bro, you got like, your friends here your whole life. Like, nah, man, I want Jordans. And so my parents were like, well, it's 3 against 1. So like, we got to go and you have to come with us.
And what was it like for you to get here?
It was really scary. I got here like right before school started, and the first, one of the things that left like a big impact on me was that like I went to sign up. My parents went to sign me up for school, and I had an aunt who was from here. She was married to my uncle, and she was like helping us do all the things because you have an adult, but this adult doesn't really know any English, so like you have to have another adult that helps with all that. So she took us to get registered for school, and then they asked for my vaccines, and I was like, well, here they are, here's my whole thing. And they're like, no, we don't, like, that doesn't count here. That's in Mexico. So you have to go and get like all these other vaccines again. So I remember like going to a clinic and getting a bunch of shots, and then just having like fever for like 3 or 4 days after that. And just feeling so like down and like sad and scared and humiliated. And I remember telling my mom, like, why'd you bring me here? Like, they're treating me like a dog. Like, I already had my shots. Like, why, and like, this sucks. Like, this is like, yeah, I don't want this. And now I think about like how painful that must have been for my parents to hear. But yeah, that was like one of the things that had like the most impact on me, like coming here. Going to school was, the first year was like really tough because I most of the time didn't really know what was going on. So I had to just kind of like learn how to read like social clues and like body language, which I became really good at that. That was I guess a silver lining. Like now I can pretty much tell like, when someone, like what someone is like, how they're feeling before or what they're going to say before they like say, as they come in their room. Like I can kind of read their body language and whatnot, but yeah, it was tough. Like the first day of school, my aunt, for some reason, decided like she like gave me a Post-it note and, like one of those like sticky notes, and put it on my shirt and said like, don't take this off. Like all day, do not take it off. Whatever you do, like if it falls off, just like pick it up and put it back on. And I just kind of walked around with this sticky note that said, I have free lunch on it. So like throughout the day, like people would see me wearing that thing and be like, what the hell? Like what's going on with this kid? But, that was like her way of like assuring that I can get free lunch at school without being able to tell them.
That's
just like
wild.
experiencing just like that. Yeah.
And as far as the actual, again, thinking of cliches, I think when people think of undocumented people coming from Mexico, it can mean any number of things. The popular image is, people coming in the backs of trucks or swimming across a river and running. But what form did that take for you as a family?
Yeah. So that, for me, I was like, we were privileged enough in Mexico where my parents had like a pretty good job. So we were able to get like tourist visas. And like my dad had family who already lived here. And so when we went through the border, like we just got a tourist visa and we're allowed to be here for like, I think 3 weeks. And we, obviously my parents were supposed to go back and get back to their job or whatever. But we never did. We just stayed. And I always joke, like, I just forgot, like I forgot that we were supposed to go back. So here I am. Which also made it easier for me to kind of gain immigration status later, because I never, it was like, well, you came in as a tourist, you just never left, as opposed to like it being like a civil violation to like cross the border without any, any visa or whatever.
Can you repeat that last part? Your audio got just a little choppy. You said as opposed to.
Oh yeah, so like I was able to come in with like a tourist visa, so it made it easier for my immigration status to change, as opposed to having had like cross the border without documents, and then that becomes like a civil violation.
Now,
yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I have to put it out there because I'm going, it's fascinating to hear that you come from a very religious background. You like traveled to Hawaii and were training to go on missions to convert other people. You reject that. As part of rejecting that, you start questioning everything, including the concept of monogamy, including how people relate to each other on a basic human level. You do know there's going to be people here who hear this who fundamentally go, a lot of times you hear stories like this that men are the ones who flirt with the idea of non-monogamy, and then ultimately relationships fall apart. And I think people who are critical of the conversation surrounding non-monogamy often feel like, we'll just get divorced then, because it seems like it always winds up there anyway. And I wonder how you think about that dialogue. And I'm sure there's people in your life who you've had similar reactions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like, so now I identify as a relationship anarchist. And I think a lot of, not only in relationships, but a lot of how I see the world kind of fits into an anarchist viewpoint. I think like,
you have to explain that more. I've never heard the phrase relationship anarchist in my life, and now I'm all amped up. I got to know what that means.
There's like so relationship anarchist basically means like I don't believe in like a hierarchy of relationships. So like, every connection is different, and every just like every person is. So like when I meet someone or when I connect with anyone, I just try to kind of identify like how I can add value to their life and how they can add value to mine through our connection. And then we just go from there. So that means like any romantic connection that I have doesn't take any hierarchy or any more importance over other connections. So like, whether our relationship is going to be platonic or romantic or whatever you want to call it, that, like, it's like we are free to relate in any way that we want to, as long as we're not harming anyone and as long as we're both getting value out of that. And just because, like, say I get to see someone like once a year doesn't mean that, like, our connection is not as valuable as someone who I see every day of the year. Or, just because we hooked up and had sex doesn't mean, like, that our connection is, like, more important than my friend who I work with, or, whoever I just see every now and then at the grocery store, like that kind of thing. It's like, I don't believe in, like, structuring relationships and saying, like, like right now I have a connection that is, like, from the outside, it would seem like we're just like boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever. Except for, from the inside, it's like, we don't use those terms. We don't use those labels. We love each other. We try to spend as much time as we can with each other, and, like, physically we're attracted to each other and we share a lot of things. But we're also not, like, I don't owe her anything. She doesn't owe me anything. We're operating under, like, the non-monogamous viewpoint. And it's like, as long as, you're not harming anybody, like, you're free to relate to others in the way that you see fit, in the way that will bring value to you. And if tomorrow she's like, I don't want to see you anymore, or I don't want to do this part of our connection, then we can talk about it, and then we can go from there. Like, it's not tied to a structure. It's not labeled. It's not, like, hierarchical. I guess that's in a nutshell what relationship anarchy looks like for me.
It's, I've never heard the phrase relationship anarchy, but Andrea tells me it is in fact a thing that she was aware of.
There's, like, podcasts and stuff about it.
Well, aren't there podcasts about just about anything?
True, you're right. But yeah, I mean, it's like a way of relating that, like, allows me to be my true self, and I find it very liberating and very wholesome, I think. And I would hope that, like, as my kids see me, relate to other people and experience my connection with them, I would hope that they grow up and kind of have that standard to base their connections from.
You've been through some wild times. You've been through some massive changes. You've been through a few phases of life with massive change in short bursts, huh?
Yeah, it's been it's been wild to navigate, like, almost the duality of things. It's like with the immigration thing, with, like, the family structure thing. It's I mean, even just, like, existing in a world where I have to, like, kind of figure out, like, okay, so this cultural context here, I'm gonna, call people dudes and do this thing, and then I go into, like, the Mexican store, or I go hang out with, like, my family, and it's like, okay, nobody here knows, like, what dude means, or, like, those types of things, where it's like almost changing the chip.
Code switching, as it's called in some cultures.
Yeah. It's a lot of code switching and lots of, like, figuring out, like, which one is me. Like, which parts of those, like, two different, or in some cases, like, many different versions of me. Like, which one do I like better, and how can I just, like, stick to that one?
That is an interesting way to think of it. in terms of,
Yeah.
so my early life was defined by religion, which gives you a whole code that defines how you're supposed to be. And you're living in one country, you're Mexican, and then your family decides to switch to a different country, and that radically shifts your identity and the identities of immigrants, especially Mexican immigrants, in the exact window of time that you've been here is something that's debated and dissected and for public consumption and sort of taken out of your hands. It does make sense to me that you are somebody who might have a radical moment in your life of going, I need to be the one in charge of my identity. At some point, it has to be up to me. I do think there's going to be people, and I don't know if I'm one of them. I'm not judgmental, but I go, man, is there a part of you who knows if you could have gotten there without taking every single step in your exact life's path, right? But there is a part of me that goes, man,
Right.
if you had figured this out before marriage, before kids, it would have spared a lot of other people. You would have less of a web to unweave regarding other people's comfort, feelings, and having to navigate around these redefinitions. And I'm sure you've thought about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, there's a web that I have to now kind of like untangle and then kind of move from there into what I want it to look like. And I think it would have been very, way easier if I would have figured out like, hey, I don't believe in marriage before I got married and had 2 kids. But I think the thing is that I think if I would not have been married or didn't have kids, I probably would not have figured that out. And I think that's it's been kind of the theme for my life, where it's like, well, if I wasn't here, maybe I wouldn't have figured out that like capitalism is bullshit, colonization is really bad and very destructive, and that like white supremacy is embedded into both of those things. And like it's also tied to religion that for the longest time I thought was like the answer to everything. So like, experiencing those things is what kind of has led me to where I'm at now.
It's really tumultuous. A lot of feelings tied up in it. But I also am impressed to hear you say that, you are taking your destiny into your hands. You're hoping that it sets a good example for your kids. And I hope it sounds like you're right in the thick of maybe the most tumultuous part of it. And I really hope that it lands in a place where you feel happy, stable, at peace, because so many redefinitions throughout the course of your life. I hope that this one that you're taking the reins on brings you to that place.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, one of the themes throughout all this like transitions and movements and things is that like just being kind and like giving people grace has been like the most helpful thing in every situation. And so like for the longest time I had lots of very strong feelings about like, my ex-partner and just like this, even just the political situation, still, I feel like, I don't want to sound like I'm minimizing it, but like, it is a really fucked up time to be an immigrant in the U.S. and to live in a place that is like 95% white people, and super conservative, but I think like, it all just comes from not knowing any better. And I think I've been in situations where, I thought I knew better, and I would tell people like, hey, you should do this. You should follow Christ or whatever. And now I look back and I'm like, dang, like that was a really dumb thing to say. I wish that somebody would have given me grace and understood that I didn't know what I was talking about. So I think, using that going forward and just being graceful and like giving people some grace for not knowing any better and just being kind to everyone as much as I can. Hoping that will do it.
Well, our time on the free feed is up. If you're down to hang out, I'd love to do the 5 questions with you behind the paywall. And I have been fascinated to hear about your many twists and turns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Caller, sincerely, thank you so much for being honest, for owning it. As I've said a few times, I think this one's going to be a little divisive in the comments. I think people are going to really do soul searching about their feelings about this one. And I cannot totally predict what's going to happen. I will say, especially in that Facebook group, everyone remember, keep it kind, keep it open-minded, keep it civil. This is not to say sit on your feelings, but express them in a way that's mature and honest in its own right and in the spirit of connecting. Also, whatever you think of the call we just had, the 5 questions on the other side of the paywall, beautifulanonymous.com, go sign up. If you want to hear me get nerdy about one of my favorite topics, which is Lucha Libre, it comes up organically in the course of the call, and the caller and I go off. The answer to the first of the 5 questions is, I believe, close to 18 minutes long, which might be a record, because we get into it about one of the most unique art forms on earth, which is Lucha Libre, Mexican-style professional wrestling, which has all sorts of traditions that cut even deeper than American pro wrestling. And man, it's a joyous conversation. Thank you so much to Andrea Quinn for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. We have a Facebook group called Beautiful Anonymous, the community. We have an Instagram. We're out there. We got live shows, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. Go there. Go to chrisgeth.com. It redirects you there. Come see us do Beautiful Anonymous live tapings in Chicago, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. Last week of January, going into February. See you guys out there on the road. Thanks so much for listening. Tell people we exist. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. If you could relive any moment in your life, good or bad, what would it be?
Growing up, I spent a little time with my grandma, and she used to make me peanut butter, like from, she would mash up peanuts on a stone, and we would sit in her bedroom by a sunny window, and we'd have Lucha Libre on the TV.
Love
and
that.
She would just kind of mash the peanuts. Yeah. Then we'd put them on a little bit of toast and enjoy it together, and just like hang out watching TV until we both would fall asleep and take a long nap. And I would relive one of those days, like that day specifically, because I think that's like the purest form of love that I've experienced.
Eating homemade peanut butter with your grandma while you watch Lucha Libre sounds like heaven on earth. Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.